Previously on Bomo Bespoke, we made this Bellows derby boot. That video was graciously sponsored by the members of the channel. We have received their comments and feedback, so we're about to make the real thing. Welcome to Bomo Bespoke. We already have the mean form of this augmented last. I guess all that remains to do is to refresh ourselves of the last length, which approximately is 34 cm. Then we also reminded ourselves of the heel height. You see how I placed the tip of the last on a pen and marked off how far along it lifted off from the ground. On this last, it came to about 5.5 cm. So heel height on this last is 5.5 cm. We draw our traditional right angle and mark in the heel height 5.5 cm on the vertical line. Place the heel on that point and then the ball on the horizontal line and draw in our mean form. Not forgetting to mark in all of the cardinal points. So let's start our design. Let's first of all design the blank boot. Vamp line, divide the vamp line into two. Connect that middle to the counterpoint to get our quarter line. Divide the quarter line into two. And then draw a line from the instep to that middle. And then draw the line from the heel to the ball. Use this line here to draw a line parallel to that line from the heel to the ball, but this time passing through the instep. So we extend this line and then we measure from the instep to the heel. Divide that distance into two. It came to about 19. So 19 divided by 2 is about 9.5. We mark it on that second parallel line that we drew and then draw a perpendicular line from the baseline to get our line upon which we will calculate the height of our boot. We chose not to go very high. We chose about 12 cm. Draw a right angle from that point to get the top line of our boot. Mark in about 0.5 cm away from that second parallel line that we drew, and then drawing a right angle from the baseline to pass through that point, we connect to our top line. Do something similar from the back height, drawing a perpendicular line to pass through the back height, perpendicular to the baseline. We also draw a line to connect to the top line. So we can curve the back like so, and also curve the front line in like so. And with that, we have our blank boot. Let's mark it out in pen. Let's highlight it with pen so that you can see it all the more clearly. So this is our boot blank. So let's go ahead now and start designing in, adding in all of the derby parts. But before we do that, we'll draw a line from the vamp point to the tip, a line from the vamp point to the instep. I want to start the quarter of my derby boot about 1 cm away from the vamp point. So from that place, I draw a right angle. Now let's do the almighty formula of my design. The rule of quarters, which is that everything lying along the last major things will be 1/4 and across will be 1/8. So let's see how it goes. Along 1/4, across 1/8, meaning that from there to there will be 1/8, so that by the time you double it up, it will become 1/4. Get it? So that part of the quarter, of course, is across. That means it will be 1/8. 1/8 of 34 will give us 4.25. So the measurement of this line here is 4.25. So that's 4.25. We'll mark it in there. Then we'll connect that point to our quarter line as much as we can. It's almost at the quarter line, really. We could have just used the point where it intersected with the quarter line, but just for correctness, we connect it to the quarter line. Now let's pretend that this is not a boot. Let's pretend that what we were designing was a shoe. To do the top line of our shoe, we'll draw a line from the back height to meet this tongue line here, and then mark in 1/8 of our last length to give us the tongue, and then curve it in from there to get the opening of the shoe, which is the top line of the shoe. Now you see this point where the tongue line intersects with the quarter line. If we draw a line from the elbow of that curve and mark in 3 cm on that line, right? Then just divide the quarter line into 4, and then draw a right angle from the middle of the quarter line to touch the feather edge. Remember, this line here we drew from the elbow of the opening of the shoe, passing through the middle of the quarter line and marked in 3 cm. This point here, that 3 cm point, and there will be the curve of the quarter of our shoe, which incidentally will also be the curve of the quarter of our boot. So if we wanted to make this a shoe, we'll use the top line there, but since it's a boot, we don't need that top line. We will use the top line that we have already added in for our boot. So we curve in the facing, and then also curve in that top over there. So with this, our derby boot is done. Let's do the tongue. The tongue will be from that point 1/8 of the last length on that tongue line there, connected it to a point about 1 cm beneath the middle of the vamp line. If we're doing a shoe, we'll curve in that tongue from just about above the instep, but since it's a boot, we'll just follow up and just do parallel and go all the way up to the top line, like so. See that? So let me use a pencil to mark that in. Better still, we can use a French curve to just follow it in like that. And with that, let's highlight the rest of the tongue. We can just extend it a little bit over the top line, and that is the full tongue right there. Of course, remember that front part has a curve to it. The only thing remaining really is to add our eyelets where the laces will go in. I chose on this particular boot to use about 1.7 cm apart away from the center line, so I drew that 1.7 cm. So all our eyelets will be on this curve here. So if I start from there, I also chose to space my eyelets 1.7 cm away from each other. There. You could use whatever works for you, but I find that within the range of 1.5 and 1.7 is always works for me. So I've added my eyelets. I just want to add a counter at the back because I want to model this after an American work boot. So if you notice American work boots like Knicks or Red Wing, they typically have this counter at the back. So I want to just add that, to stay in the well-known tradition. Now this is one of the feedback I received from the members after I had made this prototype, this particular mock-up. I took the joining point for the bellow a little bit too towards the instep, so I'm going to bring it down towards the vamp a little more, or towards the vamp point a little more. So I chose to go about 3 cm away from the van point, and that's exactly what I have done. Curve that place in like so. Of course from that point 3 cm away from the van point, what I did was just to draw a right angle. So this will be the joining point for the tongue, so that everything downward from that point will not have the bellow, and then the bellow will start from this point going upward. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the boot. In the next video we will cut out the pattern pieces and you see how it goes. Anyone